Hey everybody, it's Ron Williams, and it's Wednesday, and it's noon 15, noon 14. I'm running a couple minutes late. I ran into a little technical glitch on what I wanted to teach you this morning because one of the websites, the government website, is down apparently. But I've got something I want to share with you today that is really critical importance if you want to grow a new construction niche. And I know that a lot of you in here do. A lot of you that follow my page and follow my profile or have joined the New Home Niche Blueprint group are thinking about or pretty serious about growing a business around selling and listing new construction homes. And so I learned this several years ago, probably over a decade ago now. And one of the things, if you've been around for any length of time, you always hear me saying, look, there's a big opportunity for realtors to step into new construction and really, I mean, completely just, make a name for yourself and blow it out the door and just become the go-to realtor for your market when it comes to new construction. You absolutely can do that in just about any market across the United States, okay? And it does not depend on your experience with new construction, and really it's not even dependent on your tenure as a realtor, because I've seen many realtors who are learning how to do this now that are brand new, or maybe just 6 months or a year as a realtor. Before I jump into this though, and I'm going to give you 5 numbers that I want you to go find as quickly as you can, because it's going to change the game for you moving forward when it comes to new construction. Before we jump into that though, I want you to, across the bottom here, you can see that little scrolly thing. I think you can see the scrolly thing at the bottom of the screen. It says go to StreamYard.com in another tab if you're not on your mobile phone, if you're on your computer. If you're not, then just go ahead and talk to me here. But if you can connect with Facebook, with StreamYard.com/Facebook, then what's cool is you can comment in the comment and I can know, hey, who it is, and I can say hi back to you. And if you're here today, would love to say hi to you, because I don't like just talking to the camera myself. I'm here for you guys and to try to give you something of value that I've learned over the years with selling and listing new construction homes and working with builders and working with new construction buyers. So, as I started off, there's just an incredible opportunity for realtors who decide, I want to get big in new construction. I want to own this. And by the way, every realtor moving forward is going to need to niche in something. And I'm not saying every realtor should niche in new construction, because obviously that's not going to happen. But there is a big opportunity in new construction, and it's a great niche if you do it the right way. And unfortunately, the right way is often not the way that most people are doing it. Okay, so there's another way to go about it, that when you follow this path, you're going to start seeing growth really quickly, and you're going to start seeing differentiation between yourself and all the other realtors, and you can really truly begin to move ahead in your knowledge, your understanding, and the way you're implementing on residential new construction. So one of the things that I learned right off the bat, up front and early when I started on this, was one of the key things that I needed to figure out first, and so do you, is scoping out the size and scope and the kind of the truth about your local market, your local new construction market. And I know we all think that we know that, but most of the time, in fact, I don't know if I've met anybody yet who probably actually does. There might be a couple, I'm sure there are a couple few realtors, but most realtors do not know this basic information. And it's so important for you to get a scope and get a handle on what is the size and the scope of new construction in your metro area. So if your metro area is Columbus, I'm not talking about Columbus, I'm talking about the whole, metro area. If it's Atlanta, the whole metro area. We want to know about home building in your market. You want to know about it. Now, why do you want to know about it? Well, a few reasons really quickly. One, if we want to become a fiduciary and a guide and a consultant to new construction buyers and a value-added partner to builders and developers, number one, we got to know the inventory, right? We have to know the inventory. And you may not need to know every neighborhood and every builder, but at least you have to have a pretty good high level understanding of how big is the market. Okay. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to give you some quick ideas on how you can go find out this information and what information you're looking for. So number one, you need to know the inventory. Secondly, though, you need to be able to plan your business accordingly. You need to start to get a handle on, well, how many builders are there and which ones do I want to pursue? And if you don't have an idea of the size and scope of your market, then you probably are going to be shooting way too low, or you're going to be off to the left or to the right. You're not going to be on target with what you need to be going after and which companies you need to be going after for business. Number three, it changes when you begin to understand the scope of your market, of your local market. It'll change your confidence, and it also changes the way you talk about it. You begin to articulate what's really going on in your market better than anybody else, because I'm telling you that 99.99% of realtors do not know this stuff. They don't know it, and maybe they don't know that they don't know it, but they don't know it. Finally, last couple of things. You need it, and you need to understand these numbers for your goal setting. So it kind of goes back to your business, and also for identifying who your key target customers are going to be that you want to develop relationships with. So back in the day, when I was a realtor, every year they would have one of the local banks would put together this big old event where they'd rent out the assembly hall, which is the U of I basketball stadium, and all the bankers and professionals around that were interested in new construction, bankers and realtors and economic development people, everybody would gather together. And I think we had to pay 10 or 12 or 15 bucks to get in, I believe, but you had to have a ticket. And so it was a big deal, to come and find out basic, really kind of fundamentally basic numbers on things like, well, how many homes are being built in our market? And it always kind of struck me as odd that, love the mortgage loan officers, love the bank, but why, if, realtors are leading the way and adding value to the new construction space, why in the heck don't we know it? Why are we leaning on and relying on a once a year event that hopefully I can get a ticket for and go to so that the bank can tell me that? It would look like to me, if I want to be a leader in new construction, I might want to know that myself, right? As well as some other numbers. And what's been interesting is since we started Hoodle, and now we've met with and continue to meet with HBAs, home builders associations, and builders and realtors and brokerages and boards of realtors all over the Midwest primarily, but starting to be all over the United States. And everybody I talk to, regardless of whether it's on the real estate side or the builder side, nobody really has these basic numbers. And what's interesting about it is not only are they really important, but they're not that hard to find. Okay. Once you know how to do it, you can find these numbers, and I'm going to show you how to find them. I'm going to show you how to find 4 of them today. There's actually 5 numbers, and if I were you, I'd be jotting these down. Okay. Well, one of them, the website is down. I tried to pull it up earlier today, and I've been messing with it. I don't know if they changed around their website, but one of these numbers, one of these data points is out in DC on the website, and I cannot get to it. So, but I'll help you with that anyway. So as you begin to position yourself in new construction, this is one of the very first things you want to do. You want to understand the size and scope of your market. Okay. And when we talk about that, there's really only a handful of numbers that you need to know right now. And then once you understand this, your knowledge and your experience and the more you do, you'll just level up, and you'll learn more and more, and you'll drill down into understanding your market so that you're speaking about it in a completely different way than everybody else. But to begin with, here's where I recommend that you start. Okay. For your local market, you want to find out 5 things. And if I were you, if I had a pen and paper, I'd write these down, unless you're driving. If you're driving, you might want to pull over. But jot these things down, then I'll show you where you can find the information on them, okay? And to my knowledge, I don't think anybody else is teaching this. Um, anyway, so we'll go from there. So the 5 things that you want to find out as quickly as possible. Number 1, I want you to find out how many new home neighborhoods are there in your local market. How many new home neighborhoods? And what I'm not talking about, well, how many new home neighborhoods are on the MLS, although that's a great place to start. Okay, but and so you want to start on the MLS. And again, we're not looking for builders right now. We're not looking for lots. We're looking for how many locations can somebody build a new home in your local market. Okay, and I'm not talking about just the ones that are listed either, because a vast majority of locations where somebody can build are not listed. They're not on the MLS. Okay, and so that's one of the first things that you need to understand, is that when we're dealing with a new construction buyer, and the buyer says, well, John or Joanne or Susan or Bill or whoever, whoever the realtor is, where are the places where I can build this type of house? We want to build a ranch home. We want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2.5-car garage with a half-acre lot and a walkout basement and blah, blah, blah. So whatever it is they want, the very first question that the new construction buyer has that they have to answer to their satisfaction, not to mine, not to your satisfaction, but to theirs, is they need to answer the question of where can we build this doggone house that we will build, our dream home. And of course, every neighborhood has conformity rules, right? So you can't get the half-acre lot unless there's a half-acre lots available in that neighborhood, or you can't do the ranch home unless it's the right type of neighborhood for that. And the footprint's going to fit. So number 1, even before we know what the neighborhoods are and what all the options are for Mr. and Mrs. Jones, the first thing we need to know is, well, how many are there roughly? How many new home neighborhoods are there in our market? And what's phenomenal about this, and just always just shocks the heck out of me, is we'll go and meet with brokerages, we'll meet with builders, and we'll meet with HBAs, and everybody that I talk to in any size market, I don't care if it's a big market or small market. I can be talking to the broker, the office manager, anybody, and say, how many new home neighborhoods are there in this market? And nobody seems to know. Well, let me see. I think there's, and they start scratching around and, scratching their head and making some notes. And I think there's, and in smaller markets, I've had people say 13 when there was actually like 75. In bigger markets, and I won't go into the details, but we've been into many meetings where I'll say, well, how many new home neighborhoods are there in the Indianapolis area? And somebody will say, well, there's 135, when in fact there's about 13 to 1400 new home neighborhoods. And when I first started to understand this, and I first started to see this kind of problem or this glitch in information that was coming from realtors, it was like, wow, well, wait a second. How in the world would I expect for a buyer, a new construction buyer, or for a builder or land developer to take me seriously as a fiduciary and as a guide or a consultant if I don't even have the faintest clue of how many neighborhoods there are? So number 1, you need to know the neighborhoods. Here's how you're going to find it, okay? And you don't have to know every exact one right now. I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying it has to be an exact number, but you have to have a pretty good approximation, okay? When you do have the approximation, it changes things. It changes the way you're going to operate with buyers, with builders, with developers, and it changes your business and your trajectory. So number 1, you want to have a pretty good idea of roughly high-level estimate, how many new home neighborhoods do I think there is in Columbus, in Atlanta, in Orlando, in San Antonio, or wherever you are, okay? And here's the first way that I would take, the first pass that I would take for this, okay? And this is, I guess, what I would call a, oh, I don't say that. I don't curse on here, but it's a, It's a wag. It's more of a swag than a wag, if you know what that is. If you want to know, then message me afterwards. But this is a swag method. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to your MLS, and there's two places you can search on any MLS. Okay. You can search for active residential lots. Okay. And so I would search for active residential lots. And you can search for new construction homes, but you can't really, in almost any MLS, you can't search by new construction. You can search by homes that are 0 years old or less than 1 year old. So you're going to do those two searches. And again, you were looking for neighborhoods, not lots. We're looking for neighborhoods, not the houses. We're looking for the number of neighborhoods. Okay. And here's the way you're going to get at it. When you do your search, especially for the lots, you're going to download this as a spreadsheet. You're not going to download it as listing pages, because in most of your markets, when you pull up, show me all residential lots that are active residential lots in our market, you're going to have thousands of pages. You know, there are thousands of lots that are on the market. And so we don't want the lots right now. We want the neighborhood themselves. Fortunately, in most of the MLSs that I've looked at, which are probably around 40 or so at this point, 40 or 45, where we've studied the data in the MLS. And most of the time, you have a field where you can list out what neighborhood or subdivision or community that lot is in. That's the piece of data that you're looking for. Okay. Now, if you want help with this, because I know a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know how to download a spreadsheet from my multiple listing service, but every one I've seen, you can do that. So there's a button on the left, or there's a button down at the bottom that's going to say download as or save as, and you're going to save as a Excel spreadsheet, or it may say CSV, comma separated values, which is basically another version of a spreadsheet. You're going to download this. And ultimately, the only thing you're looking at is how many neighborhoods are represented in this list. Now, to be fair, what you really need to do is you need to look at not only that you need to do two searches on the MLS, you need to search for the active residential lots and then pull out a list of the neighborhoods that those lots reside in. And you need to do a second search, which is the homes themselves, the new construction homes. And you're going to you can merge those together. I won't try to show you how to do that, or you can just kind of, eyeball it and start making a list. So there's different ways to extract the list out of there. But ultimately what I'm looking for, what you ought to be looking for, is how many neighborhoods. And here's the critical piece of this that you need to know. If you download this and you pull it out and then you go, okay, well, it looks like there's about 100 new home neighborhoods. I want you to recognize that number, that 100, if that's what it is, probably represents about 35%. Is that right? 35%. Yeah, 35% of what's actually available, because in most markets, 65 to 70% of new home neighborhoods never make it to the list. They're not listed on the MLS. They might have been at one point, but now they're not. Sometimes these are neighborhoods where they've kind of played out, where there's only a handful of lots left. And when you talk to developers, a lot of times they go, well, there's only 6, 8 lots left. There's no point in putting it on the MLS. Yeah, but you know what? The buyer only wants to build one house. And just because there's only 6 or 8 lots left, or 10 lots, doesn't mean that it's not a good location that should be considered, or that the buyer would want to consider. Buyers want to know their options. They absolutely want to know all my options when I'm going to build my dream home. This is a life experience. Show me where I can build it. They don't care whether or not it's listed or not listed. And honestly, we shouldn't either. If we really want to be a fiduciary and we really want to go the distance for these buyers, we need to help them find what their options are. And then we'll work out the commissions on it and everything. But so you're not looking for just what's on the MLS, but you're going to start there. And again, the equation is whatever that number comes out to be, that represents probably about 30 to 35% of everything that's available, right? So work the equation on that, and I'll show you how to do the equation in just a minute. And if that's 30%, now you have a pretty good idea of how many what's the true number, or the pretty good guess of how many new home neighborhoods there are in a given market. Now, I'll give you a couple hints on this because a lot of people don't know. If you're in one of the major markets, like, when we look at Indianapolis, for instance, there are upwards of 13 to 1400 new home neighborhoods in the Indianapolis market. When we look at Chicago, there's close to 4,000 new home neighborhoods that are available. And every market, I mean, there's a different number, but it's a massive number of locations that are, number one, they're being missed because you don't know about them. The realtors don't know about them. Who else doesn't know about them? Well, the buyers certainly don't. And most of the time, the builders don't know either. And you want to know who else doesn't know? Economic development and city planners. City planners, when they're planning and they're mapping out economic development, we're going to develop this, XYZ corridor over the next 10 years in our community. They are looking at how many neighborhoods and how many lots are available. If they're going to put in new neighborhoods, they always want to do their due diligence and go, well, is it feasible for us to put in another neighborhood? Nobody needs an empty neighborhood that doesn't sell. So they go through a process of studying and doing their due diligence on how many lots are currently available and at what price points and how many days on market, and do we think that this location is going to sustain another neighborhood or 15 more neighborhoods. And so that's how they do it. But the problem is that most of the time their data set is only their city. So if there's 100 cities or 45 cities, they don't know about the other 40 or 41. By the way, from a buyer standpoint, buyers generally don't care a whole lot. Maybe they do. I mean, if there's some significant differences between, the twin cities of city A or city B, maybe they want to live in one or the other. But when you're in a metro area, there's a lot of different options. And so you can't just, there's not really a good place to do that other than what we are creating at Hoodle. And, and if you are not familiar with Hoodle, we ought to connect up later. If you're interested in, I'll show you how you can get involved, because it really absolutely will make a huge difference for you. So number one, you want to find out a pretty high level number, as accurate as you can, of how many neighborhoods do I think there are in the market. Okay. Number two is right along with that, I want to have an idea of how many builders are in my local market. And this is another one that just really is kind of shocking, because you can go to the Home Builders Association, you can go to a lot of different places where you would think they have a pretty good idea of how many general contractors, how many home builders there are in our local market. And most of the time, nobody really seems to know. It's just like it's a wag, And so I'm trying to teach you how to get a swag. Well, one of the first places you can look, and there's probably 13 to 15 different ways that you can go about identifying. If I want to know who all the builders are, and you do, okay, you may not have a relationship with all of them, you probably won't, but at least you want to start with, well, how many are there? Okay, and then from there, you can begin to drill down into which ones do I want to develop a relationship with and try to become more of a marketing partner to them. And so that's a whole other process. But no, right now, we just want to know, well, how many are there? Here's the simplest way to get started with this. You're going to go to your HBA. Let me see if I've got, I'll show you a page where you can find your HBA if you're not for sure what your Home Builders Association is. Let me see if I've got this queued up here. I think I do. There it is. There's a website that is publicly available. It's on the National Association of Home Builders. Here it is right here, where you can go and search your state and find all the HBAs, the Home Builders Associations in your state. And within that, you're going to want to find the one or two that are in your market. And ultimately, what you're going to look for when you get into the HBA itself is you want to look for how many builders do they have in the HBA. Now, let's say, I was just looking at one yesterday or this morning, I guess it was this morning. There was HBA that had 99 builder members, okay? 99 builder members. So I'm just going to round it up to 100 in this case. But, it's called 100 builder members that were in this HBA directory that I was looking at. Most of the HBAs have a directory. There's one or two or three that don't, but most of them are across the country have directories of the number of builders that they've got and everybody else that's a member. By the way, if you have a problem with that, you can reach out to me. Another thing you can do is call the HBA themselves and say, hey, I'm, really interested in your HBA and want to find out a little bit of information. Do you know how many builder members you have? And most of the time they'll be real happy to share that with you, I believe. But once you find out, let's say you go to your HBA and there's 100 builder members there that they have, that number represents about 10 to 15% of the total number of builders in your market, maybe less, okay? But according to NAHB, in their very best HBAs that they have across the country, they never get much beyond 10 to 15% membership by builders, okay? And so once you have that number, if it was 100 builders, then your equation is going to be 100 times 0.15 equals, and that's the total number of, that's your estimate of how many builders there are. Third number that you want to get at, okay, is, so we had neighborhoods, builders. Third thing is new construction buyers. Guys, this is the one I cannot show you today because I'll tell you where you can find it, and it's a little geeky to find it. It took me a long time of making calls back and forth but it's on the U.S. Census Bureau. And so within the data banks, the database of the U.S. Census Bureau, they have a section for residential new construction. How many permits are being pulled, how many permits are being pulled, and how many homes are being built in every market in the United States, okay? That's a pretty good place to look, and even that is not 100% accurate, and I won't get into why, but in talking to them, they do sampling in each area, and so there are other ways to get at, but that's what I found the fastest way is go find that data. Again, their website is down. I don't know why today. I know they've changed it around a lot over the last several months. If you want help with that, I'm happy to help with that. I'm going to be updating, and generally we keep a database of every market in the United States and watching the growth or decline in every market. Did new construction buyers go up this year, and then it went down 5%, and then it went up 10%? But I want you to know the number of how many new construction buyers are there roughly in your given market. Again, when you start to understand this stuff, it changes the way you talk about it. And it changes the way you're being perceived, because 99.9% of realtors don't know, haven't really thought about it. I don't know how many neighborhoods there are. Let's go look on the MLS. That's not the right number. I don't know how many builders there are. Let's go look at the HBA. Wrong number. Okay, so I want you to find these numbers. Now there's two more, and the two more are really, really simple. And this is not a comprehensive list. This is a starting place. But if you are serious about growing a business in new construction, and I hope you are, because it's just an enormous and wonderful opportunity. When you learn how to do it correctly, you will have a lot of builders and buyers and land developers that absolutely love you and are seeking out your help. Okay, so if you want to do that, this is a good baseline place to start. Last two numbers I'm going to tell you, and then we'll call it a wrap. One is, and this one is very easy to find, how many realtors are in your market? How many realtors? Well, actually realtors and agents. So we want to know, you can check the board of realtors. How many realtors are there in Dallas, Fort Worth? How many realtors are there in Atlanta? How many realtors are there in Tucumcari, New Mexico, wherever you are? And get a gauge on that. And then the fifth number is kind of a subset. And it's one that's really important for you to start to understand, and that is how many realtors are in your market who specialize in new construction. And that gets really interesting, because there are, in most markets, every place where we've studied, that number comes out to be about, it's less than actually 1 in 1,000. If there's 45,000 realtors in your market, I know there's not in a lot of markets, but some there are, Dallas, Fort Worth, there are less than 45 realtors. If there's 45,000 in the market, there's less than 45 who are doing more than 1 or 2 new home transactions a year. And generally, it's a lot less than 1/10 of 1%. So I'm being generous with the 1 in 1,000. You know, if you know that there's 9,000 realtors in your market, you're going to want to find out how many are doing more than 1 or 2 new home transactions a year. Here's a simple place to look. Back to the HBA. You know, here's a good starting place at least. You can go look in their directory and find um, how many realtors are realtor members that are part of the HBA. That's not the final place to look. Probably a better place would be to study the MLS, but I don't have time to show you how to do that. I'll give you a hint. It's kind of similar to the way we just did it with the neighborhoods. You're going to search new home sales transactions for a given year. You're going to download it as a spreadsheet. And then from there, we're going to use a formula to figure out who's selling what and who's selling the most. And you know, Susan sold 50 and Sam sold 45, and pretty much everybody else is selling 1, and a few are selling 2. Okay, but it starts to dwindle very, very quickly. So when you begin to understand these basic numbers, again, it changes the way you approach the market, and you start to realize, wow, there's a place for me here. There's absolutely an opportunity for me to bring more value into this space and to become very quickly to begin moving yourself ahead to become one of the top realtors in your local market. So last couple things I'll give you here, and we'll call it good. If you want more information about this, I'm going to change this here. If you look at the banner down below, you see it's scrolling across the bottom there, the scrolly thing. Go to newhomenicheblueprint.com, and when you go there, there's a PDF file that we put together that is really helpful, and 7 corresponding videos that go along with it of the 7 big problems that new construction buyers have. And we've studied this for years. We've talked to hundreds and hundreds of new construction buyers, get a pretty good handle on it. But what are the 7 biggest problems that new construction buyers have in their buyer journey? Again, this is something, that piece is absolutely free for you to download. I would watch the videos that go along with it, and don't just read the PDF, watch the videos. It'll begin to change the way you think about, talk about, and pursue new construction to where you start to build unique value, where you build authority and you build differentiation for yourself as a realtor in your local market. Grab that. On the other side of it, once you log in, there is a premium class. It's real cheap, but it's about 8 hours of training, 8 hours just on the issue that I was talking about of how do you scope out, really scope out and begin to understand your new construction market. How do I begin to get at that? Who do I go after? How do I find the right ones? And how do I get started? So guys, that's all I had for you today. I hope you take advantage of this. There is a wonderful opportunity for you in your market. If you want help with it, if you need help with it, DM me, reach out. I'm going to open up this week and this weekend about 6 strategy call spaces. I've got a little bit extra window of time. If you are serious about getting started in new construction, if you want to, and you're stuck, you don't know something, we haven't talked about it, or you're wondering if it's something good for you, feel free to message me, and I'll give you my calendar link. We can set up a time. Or if you just need to do a strategy call and go, I don't know how to get to the next step, I'm stuck on this one thing. So I'm happy to hop on the phone with you or a Zoom call and help you figure it out and get you moved forward. Guys, spring is upon us. It's starting to warm up in Illinois, and I know it's starting to warm up where you are. And so there's going to be a lot of home building going on right now. Right now is the time to get in this right now. And one last thing I will tell you this, a lot of realtors are seeing, well, builders are just flush with buyers, and so they don't need realtors. They still do. And that's a whole conversation of it in and of itself about how to get at that. There's a different approach that you're going to take to go work with those builders even in a seller's market where they've got a lot of buyers. But the truth is, it's not going to stay that way. So there will be a day very, very soon where they'll more of them will be reaching out to you. But even right now, if you start to take a hold of some of the stuff that I'm teaching you, you can begin to get your foot in the door very quickly with builders, with developers, and absolutely with new home buyers that want and need your help, where you're going to be the fiduciary, the guide, and the go-to realtor. So that's all I got, guys. I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing week. And whatever you do, go out there and be amazing for somebody else. God bless you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.